There is a lot of glam for the LA Rams. Hello, welcome to NFL picks and predictions for the divisional games. I am Napoleon, and I am reporting to you from my closet. First of all, I just wanted to say that it has been a horrible tragedy for all of the people in California who are having to deal with the wildfires right now. I can only imagine what they are having to go through right now, and it is definitely a lot of suffering, a lot of pain going on over there. So if you would like to help the victims of the wildfires, I have included a link in the description of this video that'll take you to the website for the American Red Cross where you can help out and make a donation. I really hope all of the victims are safe and that they can all make it through this terrible disaster. Also, if you cannot tell already, I'm definitely not feeling that well right now. I'm not sure what I picked up, but I'm definitely trying to get over something right now. And I've definitely felt like garbage the last few days, so I'm really not feeling that good to make a video, but you know what they say, the show must go on, so I will try to power through this video the best I can. Hopefully be back, and my voice will be back to normal the following week. First of all, when it comes to talking about how the NFL is going right now, the wild card games were definitely interesting to watch. I gotta say, kudos to the Houston Texans for actually holding off the Los Angeles Chargers. That was the one game I was wrong about last week in my picks for the wildcard games. Early on in the game, within the first half, it looked like it was close, but that Los Angeles would pull out the win. But when it came time for the second half, that Houston offense did exactly what they had to, and they pulled off a very big win against Los Angeles. They definitely got a well-deserved spot in the divisional games in the playoffs. Definitely, Baltimore got another well-deserved win. The point differential in that game was actually less than the one with Los Angeles and Houston, which kind of surprised me, but Baltimore was able to hold off Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, as I did predict, even though Pittsburgh usually beats Baltimore, they were just falling down towards the end of the season. Baltimore held on, and they definitely also got a well-deserved win as well last week. Not only that, the Buffalo Bills beat the crap out of the Denver Broncos. While I definitely thought Buffalo would hold them off, I did not know that they would win by that far of a margin, but I did have a feeling it was all over for Denver. Definitely, though, Denver is nothing to be upset about. They still made it to the playoffs, first time since Peyton Manning retired, so we'll see what Bo Nix can offer the team the following season. I definitely see some good things happening for them in the future. Now, it does look like Sean Payton may not continue to be their coach, so we'll see how that plays out and what effect that has on the team going forward. Green Bay and Philadelphia, while I did think that Philadelphia would beat Green Bay did keep it somewhat competitive. That was kind of a decent win for Philadelphia, but they didn't necessarily blow up the scoreboard as I expected. But then again, they really didn't have to, just because Green Bay was definitely having some errors and a lot of their players got hurt. I definitely feel sorry for them, and I wish them the best of luck the following season. But unfortunately, that's the way it goes, and as of now, Philadelphia is just a better team than them, but Green Bay definitely did the best they could. They got a well-deserved spot in the playoffs, and while Green Bay has been a pretty good team overall, they just cannot hold off the top teams, and Philadelphia currently is one of those teams. So then we had Washington beating out Tampa. While I did predict that Washington would beat Tampa, I do feel like Tampa had the chance. They choked in the fourth quarter. Washington definitely gave them some chances to win the game by going for those fourth downs and missing them. And then Tampa did have their chance, like when they had a turnover on downs, when Washington went for a 4th and goal, and then Baker Mayfield fumbled the ball, automatically put Washington in the red zone. Then when Tampa got the ball back, they were in field goal range, and they could not make a 3rd and inches play. And those two plays just really cost them the game, which made Tampa have to settle for a field goal, and then Washington was able to have enough time on the clock to run it out and eventually kick the game-winning field goal. But definitely Washington deserves to have this spot in the divisional games. And that's the first time in years they have gone to a divisional game in the playoffs. So Jaden Daniels has definitely helped Washington become a better team. Then the final game, Minnesota and Los Angeles. I know Minnesota was a favorite, but I was correct, and Los Angeles beaten them. I did not know that Los Angeles would beat them by as much as they did, but they definitely showed they deserved to be in the playoffs, that they had to work their way out of a hole early on in the season when they were at 1-4. They definitely did what they had to, and they definitely got a well-deserved win to go on to the divisional games this week. As far as it goes for the Minnesota Vikings, we'll see how it goes for Sam Darnold in the future. I think he definitely helped the team, and I definitely do feel like they are really disappointed to finish the season 14-3 and then go down in the wild card playoffs to a team that is 10-7. As I mentioned with Los Angeles, they had to take a few losses just because two of their best players were out early in the season. I understand just with how Minnesota was playing that it definitely does not look good on them to just go down like they did on Monday after having a really good season, but I did have that gut feeling that after that loss to Detroit, when Detroit beat them 31-9 in the final game of the season, that a lot of the momentum Minnesota had going into the playoffs was gone. They just could not get back up. Their offense just could not show up like they wanted it to, but they still got nothing to be upset about. If you ask me, I think they should keep Sam Darnold for the following season, but we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how Kevin O'Connell feels. So with that being said, let's talk about my picks for this week in the divisional games. So starting with the Saturday games. First game is Houston Texans and Kansas City Chiefs. As I mentioned earlier, I've got a lot of respect for the Houston Texans for what they were able to pull off last week in the wild card round against the Los Angeles Chargers to not only edge out a win, but beat them by 20 points. That was definitely a well-deserved win, but for this game, I feel like it's going to be the total opposite for them. Kansas City is the favorite to win this game. Point spread for them is -8. You probably already know who I am going to pick for this game, but I will still explain my reasoning for the pick just to show that it's not very biased. For one thing, this is Houston's first divisional game within the last 5 years, so they should be proud to just make it this far. Now, as far as it goes for Kansas City, they are going to be a much harder team to beat than the Los Angeles Chargers, and Houston knows that. They're probably going to bring what they can, but they just don't have that much to bring with them at this point, I don't feel. Kansas City got the bye week last week, and then the week before, they benched most of their best players. This will be the first game Patrick Mahomes has played since Christmas Day. So you know that he's well rested, he's ready to go. Kelsey's ready, Xavier Worthy's ready, Noah Gray's ready, DeAndre Hopkins is ready, all of their defense is ready, Andy Reid is ready, Steve Spagnuolo's ready. This is a powerhouse team that's going to be on fire this game. For Houston, I know that they may not play horrible, but unfortunately, I just don't see Houston having much left in the tank. Even if they weren't playing the number one team in the NFL, I would still say that it would be all over for Houston this week. I know I did say that, Houston would lose last week, but they actually didn't. But there's no way an upset can happen this game. If any commentators are saying stuff like, oh yeah, Houston has a chance. No, they are lying to you. They are trying to put out a false sense of security, or they're trying to sway you in the wrong direction to waste money betting on Houston for this game. Don't do it. Don't throw away your money. I know Kansas City may or may not cover the spread. Their odds on money line to win the game are -500, which means for this game, I would be more than comfortable putting a very high bet on this game. I'm that confident they're going to win. I'm not worried about risking $500 to win $100 off of this game because you know what? Because they're going to win the game and $100 is good to win any game. I do not care. Do not be shy. Go all in on money line for the Chiefs. I'm that confident Kansas City can easily beat Houston. They're all ready to go. They're all fired up. Do not be shy on whatever bet you put on money line for this game. So I think it's pretty obvious that for this one, I'm easily, hands down, going with Kansas City. While they may not necessarily have a huge point differential, at the end of the day, they will get the win and they will move on to their 7th straight conference championship game. So moving on to the later game on Saturday, we've got Washington Commanders and Detroit Lions. Detroit is the favorite for this game. Point spread for them is minus 9.5. So, as I mentioned, Washington definitely deserves to win the game. Tampa definitely had their chances to beat them. I feel like they choked. At the end of the day, Washington got the win. Jaden Daniels has proved that he deserves to stay on that team. Now, as far as it goes for Detroit, they are coming off of the bye week. They are definitely going to be more prepared for this game than Washington. However, this goes back to the question of how will Detroit's defense hold up in the game, just seeing how a lot of their defensive players are out with injuries. Washington, they definitely have a chance at keeping this game competitive. In fact, just seeing that the point spread is kind of wide for the Commanders, I would not be shy at putting a conservative bet on Washington for this game, seeing that they have plus 9.5 on the point spread, because Detroit could easily win this game by a field goal, but then you would still cover the spread with Washington. As far as it goes with who's going to win the game, I definitely think that Detroit's defense is going to allow Washington's offense to definitely put more points on the board than Detroit wants. Washington will give Detroit more of a competition than Minnesota did the final game of the season. However, I do think the Lions offense can score enough points to hold off Washington and just do good enough to get the win. So for this game, I'm going to go with Detroit. While I do not think it will be a blowout win, I do think that they will still be able to hold off Washington, and they will move on to their second consecutive conference championship. Another thing that I would watch out for in this game is that I feel the only way Detroit loses is if there's too many Campbell gambles. So if Dan Campbell tries to go for too many fourth down plays, that could definitely cost them. So they definitely got to watch out for that. But Washington can try to do the same thing. They definitely did a lot of fourth down plays last week. So the fourth down plays could work to either team's advantage, and it will definitely be really interesting to watch this game on Saturday and see how it plays out. So moving on to the Sunday games. First game, we've got Los Angeles Rams and Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia is the favorite. Point spread for them is minus 6. So for this game, of course, Los Angeles definitely deserves to be here in the divisional games, and they definitely deserve that win that they got against Minnesota last week. This goes back to the idea that Los Angeles probably will not play bad. It's just Philadelphia is going to play a lot better. With the way Philadelphia has been able to handle themselves the last few weeks, they're definitely playing better than they were early on in the season. Los Angeles also is playing better than they were early on in the season. I'm not sure how competitive this game will be. There's a possibility Philadelphia could have a blowout win against Los Angeles, but then I also think there are those situations where Los Angeles could keep it more competitive. But at the end of the day, as long as Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley are ready to go, you know that Sirianni is all ready for McVay and Stafford this game. So while they definitely had a good comeback this season, I unfortunately think it will be all over for the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday. As far as the final score, I'd say if you want to place a conservative bet on Philadelphia for point spread, that may not be a bad bet. They could easily win by a touchdown. If you want to do maybe a medium bet on money line for Philadelphia for this game, I also think that would be a really good bet. I do think that the Eagles are just going to show a lot more competitiveness and just play a really great game on Sunday, and there just won't be no stopping them, despite the fact that Los Angeles will come at them with what they got. I just think that for this game, I think the Rams can bring what they have to the field, but I just do not think it will be enough to hold off the Eagles. So for this game, I'm going to go with Philadelphia. I think that they will be able to get the win. I think they will definitely be able to avenge their embarrassing loss in the playoffs last season against Tampa, and they will show that they are in the least worthy of being a Super Bowl team. One thing I just wanted to say is that I was kind of hoping Tampa would win the wild card game against Washington last week, because although Detroit and Philadelphia were not necessarily playing as good earlier in the season, Tampa beat both of them. And while I do think that if Tampa advanced to the playoffs and ended up playing Philadelphia, while I do think Philadelphia would definitely have the advantage this time, it definitely would have been really interesting to watch to see if Tampa could actually hold them off, because I do know that Philadelphia does have a history of struggling against Tampa, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But I just kind of felt it would be interesting, because say if Detroit wins the divisional games, then Tampa was able to beat Philadelphia in the divisional games, and then Tampa would play Detroit. Would they possibly beat them? I don't know. Just something that I thought was a little fun to think about, but unfortunately that won't happen. But best of luck to Baker Mayfield going forward. So moving on to the final game of the week. On Sunday, we've got Baltimore Ravens and Buffalo Bills. Baltimore is the favorite to win this game. Point spread for them is -1. So this will probably be the most fun game to watch this week. It will probably be the most competitive game, and it is definitely a toss-up. Both teams got a well-deserved win last week and showed that they deserve to be in the divisional games this week. Now these two, who are arguably some of the higher teams in the NFL, are going up against each other, and it's their chance to prove who is a better team. As you probably remember, in week 4, Baltimore beat the crap out of Buffalo, ended up winning the game 35-10. And that was back when Baltimore was struggling. They lost their first 2 games of the season and almost lost in week 3 to Dallas, but then they had an incredible win in week 4 against Buffalo, and that really surprised me, because I actually thought Buffalo would win that game, because the first 3 weeks, Buffalo was having these crazy wins. They were blowing up the scoreboard, and they had a very good points per game average. After that week, Baltimore started to play better in the season overall, and that is why they were right here in the divisional games. Buffalo's definitely had a lot of good games this season. They've definitely shown that they deserve to be here in the divisional games, and that's what I'm saying. This game will just be a lot of fun to watch. But as far as who wins, the only difference where Baltimore may not necessarily play as good as they did earlier in the season, or if Buffalo plays better, is because earlier in the season, Buffalo was playing at M&T Bank Stadium, but now this game, Baltimore is playing at Orchard Park. It may or may not help for Buffalo to have home field advantage. I honestly don't think it will make a huge difference. Here's where my logic comes in. I cannot prove this statistically. It's just a feeling that I'm thinking, you know what, I'm just gonna bet this way, and I'll probably turn out to be right, because I have been previous seasons. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have been putting up really good numbers the whole season. Definitely both been great quarterbacks. They both deserve to get that MVP title. Usually in the divisional round games, Buffalo chokes, because if you've noticed that consistently, the last 3 seasons, Buffalo went down at this point in the playoffs. A lot of people were surprised, but I was all ready for it, because they were like, oh, how could Buffalo play like that after they played so great the rest of the season? If you ask me, I do think they're going to choke. However, the one reason that makes me wonder that Buffalo might actually have a chance is, when was the last time Buffalo won the divisional round games? And that was the 2020 season. Who did they play that game? Baltimore. With that being said, I don't know if Baltimore may not play as good as some people are expecting, and that's why this game will just be a lot of fun to watch. But if you ask me, I don't really have anything to back up my reason for this pick, but I'm just going out for it. I think Buffalo's going to choke, so for this game, I'm going with Baltimore. It could easily be a close game, but since the point spread for Baltimore is -1, hey, you might as well take it. It's -115 odds compared to if you bet money line for Baltimore, which is -120, so I would still at most do a medium bet on this game, because as I mentioned, I'm not fully confident that my theory will play out once again. I just have that feeling, so I'm putting my money on Baltimore. So those are my picks and predictions for the NFL divisional round games. Let me know what you think, leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video for NFL picks and predictions. My name is Napoleon, and I'm in the closet. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Check out some of the other content we have on this page, and make sure to subscribe so you are always notified when new content becomes available on this channel. And I will see you in the next video.